Whoa, hey, put that away. You behave yourself. This game is already scary enough.
Never look up fan fiction. If you ever hear anything about never look up fan fiction. What's up? We're here to watch some more MatPat. This is Game Theory, Five Nights at Freddy's 3. So she's never seen, I don't think you've seen a Game Theory video before. But this guy does kind of breakdowns behind the stories of the games and stuff like that. So I think this would be cool to watch too. This is probably the most like story-driven game as well. With the movie coming out, I think that now that they've announced that Springtrap's in it, I feel it could be interesting to give you some lore of what this game is, stuff like that. I know the meme FNAF lore, since this is most lore-driven game. This story changes all the time, but at the time when this came out too, this was supposed to be the last game. It's funny now, because there's like a million other games now. And now there's a movie. If you want to see the full gameplay of me playing this, just send the link in the description. Let's do it!
When it comes to this game series, no one was waiting for anything. I mean, the second game came out 3 months after the first. The trailer for the third...
These first three games came out 1 year of each other, which that's crazy to develop that many games that short amount of time. And then the fourth game came out literally that next year. He was on a roll at this time.
It was 2 months later, and like 4 minutes after that, the game was available to download. So forgive me if I was caught with my pants down on that one. I just wasn't prepared for it. But even more impressive than that abbreviated timeline was your ability to rip that final game apart. Hours after the release of the game, people were discussing good versus bad endings, 8-bit Atari cake, glitching through walls, and punching a flipping code into cement bricks.
See, and a lot of people don't like this game, but like personally, I've always enjoyed this game for that element. I think it's something different.
Telephone dial pad. In regards to that last one, I have two things to say. First off, well done to you guys for figuring it out so quickly, and secondly, Scott, seriously. Seriously, Scott? Oh, look, here's a wall. Let me just dial in my phone number. Beep, boop, boop, beep, boop, boop. What? When did we jump from a point-and-click horror game to magical fantasy?
Yeah, he had like a bunch of Easter eggs in it. I was wondering how the hell people figured that out when this first came out, because there's so many to the point where I'm like, how did you even find that?
I expect Harry effing Potter to apparate into Pirate's Cove or something. Jeez, here I was thinking that you'd plug your numbers into, the one other place that you see numbers in this game, the bonus jump scare menu, or something, anything, but nope, dialing it into a wall makes so much more sense. Okay. Sorry, just needed to get that one off my chest. Moving on. Now, with 15 days at Freddy's under our belts and a few overtime hours clocked in for good measure, we have
this music in the background, holy shit. This is really nostalgic for me, because when I first started my channel, every scary YouTube channel, especially Top 5 Unknowns, was using this background music at the time. So this is like really middle school nostalgic for me, hearing that music again after so many years.
Completed video game trilogy, with the third game giving us more jump scares, more phone guy, and more fan.
But and was crazy too. This came out almost a decade ago. We were in middle school almost a decade ago now. That's crazy.
I don't like that. Don't say that.
Someone brought up, they're like, yeah, this game came out like a decade ago. I'm like, no. No. That's not true. And I saw 2014. I'm like,
game also contains the final clues we need to get some closure on this game's deviously vague story. Scotty C certainly didn't make things any easier for us, but at this point I think we finally have enough puzzle pieces scattered across the 3 games to assemble a fairly accurate picture of this franchise's lore. Since you guys had a, let's just say, above average interest in this theory, I wanted to create something that answered as many questions as possible about this franchise. But beyond just the details, the question we all want an answer to is, what exactly happened in the story throughout this series? It's a pretty fundamental question to not have an answer to, and yet, despite thousands of videos, forum entries, and Tumblr posts, whoa, hey, put that away. You behave yourself. This game is already scary enough without you sticking your hook somewhere it doesn't belong, okay? Despite all those things, we still don't have a...
Never look up fanfiction. Never. If you ever hear anything about never look up fan fiction. It's so scary. That's just taking shit too far. Like, for anything that people do that and they put it into cartoons and make it like that, and it's like, Why'd you make it weird?
Tales. Yes, there's a child killer on the loose, the infamous purple guy, who's been using Fazbear pizzerias as his hunting ground of choice for years, but going into the third game, we still weren't sure about who this guy was or even how many victims he'd officially taken. Then there are the animatronics. Sure, we generally understand that the killer's dead bodies have been stuffed into some of the suits, and that with the help of the puppet, the kids were able to find new life in those robotic bodies. But then, what about Shadow Bonnie and Shadow Freddy, who randomly appeared in FNAF 2 only to become prominent figures throughout Part 3? How do they fit in? What about the ghostly Golden Freddy, someone we've been talking about since the first game, and yet we still don't really know anything about him? Well, now that we finally have all the facts, I think it's time we revisit my timeline I presented in the last episode to see what I got right, what I got wrong. Yes, you heard that. Wrong. No shame. I'm a big boy. Mommy, wow, I'm a big kid now. And finally fill in the missing details to create what I believe to be my definitive Five Nights theory. And boy, howdy, it is a doozy.
So yeah, because even with the story, because I always say that the game's cool in itself, but I don't think it would have been as big as if the story wasn't as huge as it is. Because there's people who don't even know about the games, but do know about the story.
Tap in, theorists. You wanted it, you're about to get it. Overall, the timeline of the franchise I presented in the last video still holds strong. Decades before the name became a horror legend meriting its own theme park style attraction, Freddy Fazbear got his start at Fredbear Family Diner. It's here where our story begins as Purple Guy takes his first victim, something we see in the Take Cake minigame from Five Nights at Freddy's 2. What tells us that this is Fredbear?
I also want to point this out because I did say this in the last video and it's kind of stupid of me to say. I thought this was a prequel to everything. I'm wrong. This game was not a prequel to everything. I thought it for some reason, but and thinking back in retrospective and stuff like that, I was like, no, it's not.
And first in the timeline? Well, as I said last time, in addition to it being a small space, the only character we see is Freddy, whereas all other minigames feature multiple animatronics. He's also holding a cupcake. Since that would later become Chica's signature item, the event depicted in this game must have come before she was created. Additionally, notice that the purple guy's murder takes place outside the building. This is the only time we see him murder someone outside the walls of a Fazbear building, which implies that this is likely his first victim. Serial killers often have what's known as a signature, a way of killing that's unique to him and him alone. For Purple Guy, his signature is dressing in an animatronic costume, then luring children to the back of the pizzeria and killing them there. But this murder occurs before he developed this particular style, implying that it's the first. From there, we know that the puppet jump scare that always follows this minigame, combined with the tier design on both the dead child and the puppet's mask, implies that the soul of the first child now exists in the puppet. The event caused the original owners to sell the Fredbear name, who then rebranded and avoided the negative PR.
I didn't really think of that.
They keep rebranding. That's the crazy thing. They just keep opening every restaurant, even though someone dies in all these restaurants. So like, all right, fuck it, we're going to open somewhere else.
Becoming what we know today as Fazbear Entertainment. They then opened a new chain of restaurants, which we never saw in the games until the release of Five Nights 3. This is not Fredbear Diner like many interpret, but rather the first location of Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, predating the events of Five Nights at Freddy's 2. How do we know? Well, by paying close attention to the old recordings of Phone Guy dug up in FNAF 3, he introduces us to Freddy Fazbear's Pizza, not Diner, before explaining the functionality of the special spring-lock suits.
Welcome to your new career as a performer/entertainer for Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. Right now we have two specially designed suits that double as both animatronic and suit.
He also lets us know that the animatronics are still allowed to walk around freely during the day, meaning that this is happening before the bite of 87, in which an animatronic bites someone during business hours, removing their frontal lobe and resulting in the animatronics being restricted to moving around only at night.
For ease of operation, the animatronics are set to turn and walk towards sound cues.
As Phone Guy informs us, and as we see in the Stage 01 minigame, there are two specialty suits, a Golden Bonnie suit and the origins of the infamous Golden Freddy. But the lifespan of these spring-lock suits is actually short-lived as we learn about their one fatal flaw.
After learning of an unfortunate incident at the sister location involving multiple and simultaneous spring-lock failures, the company has deemed the suits temporarily unfit for employees. The classic suits are being retired, to an appropriate location.
Now, let's pause here. 2 employees are killed by the failure of a Bonnie suit and a Freddy suit. Where else in the game do we see Bonnie and Freddy sharing a unique feature that no one else in the game possesses? Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie. Could this be the origin of the paranormal Shadow suits? Yes, actually. Shadow Freddy and Shadow Bonnie are tied to the ghosts of the employees who died in the spring suits. Get this, the employees'
That's
bodies
what I was
were taken
wondering,
out of
because I saw those shadows in the last game, and I'm like, I don't know what the fuck that means.
the suits, which is why their appearance is more paranormal and why they can't possess them as well as the children can. Plus, having this as their origin would explain the in-game behavior of both suits.
Yeah,
in
that
FNAF
makes sense why there's
3,
the
we
two
see
there.
that Purple Guy hides in a secret safe room that has been built into every pizzeria. A room that's hidden to customers and invisible to the animatronics programming. During the minigames that occur between nights, we see Shadow Freddy lead the other animatronics to this secret room, only to cause them to glitch out and then get torn apart by Purple Guy. This supernatural origin story is how Shadow Freddy is able to enter the safe room when other animatronics can't. How he's able to lead you to that room in the first place when other animatronics wouldn't be able to see it based on their programming, and even why he leads you there, knowing that
Shit.
Purple Guy attacking you will eventually free your soul. That's also why there's no Purple Freddy suit when you do finally enter that room. It's not an alternate Purple Guy costume like many believe, it's an apparition. Suck on that, Harry Potter, I knew someone would apparate eventually. It also explains why Shadow Bonnie's minigame in FNAF 3 always starts on stage 01, the spring suits, and why it's the one animatronic we control that has the ghostly ability to glitch, fly, and teleport. As we concluded last episode, this is also the point in the timeline of the first missing children's incident, the one we learn about via newspaper clippings in Five Nights 1. So, based on the newspaper clipping evidence we have, we know that the mauve murderer dressed in one of the suits lured children to a back room and killed them. He's starting to develop his signature, but one nagging detail FNAF theorists have been wondering is what suit does he use for his disguise? The answer? Golden Bonnie.
it's gonna be
Why?
that one.
Well, remember the phone guy saying the faulty suits were being retired to an appropriate
Yeah, and there was there's a picture online too of like him like basically being dead under the suit and shit like that. It's fucked up.
location. There's a high likelihood they're being stored in one of the safe rooms in the restaurants. Plus, we hear in FNAF 2 that the Purple Guy has a habit of using a yellow suit.
We had a spare in the back, a yellow one. Someone used it.
But why not Golden Freddy? Phone Guy tells us so at the beginning of Night 5 in FNAF 3.
Management has also been made aware that the Spring Bonnie animatronic has been noticeably moved.
My, what an oddly specific detail to include, Scott Cawthon. And remember, these tapes that
Damn,
play
I wasn't really
FNAF
paying
3
attention to the phone calls. I didn't know they were really something you had to pay attention to. Huh. I wasn't paying attention at all. I was kind of just talking over it because I thought they were just kind of... Damn, that's my bad. Wow, damn, that's really my bad there.
Yeah.
all the way back to the first pizzeria location, which is why this detail is so important. It reflects Purple Guy starting to develop his signature killing pattern. From there, we know the rest of the story. Purple Guy kills the kids, stuffs the bodies into the suits to hide them, but as we read the paper, is caught on camera and arrested. Meanwhile, the puppet gives life to the children, and the angry spirits possess the robots. Or is that really how it goes? Let's go back to the Give Gifts, Give Life minigame. The children are lying there dead, and the puppet first tries to give them presents. Weird, right? Weird until you consider that his place is at the prize corner. Giving presents is the only thing he knows that can make children happy. It's a reflex. Remember, this is still a child's spirit in this puppet, but when that doesn't work, the puppet goes around one more time and does the only other thing it can think of. Put the bodies into the suits. You heard that right. In trying to save the children, he's the one hiding them in the animatronic suits. Not the killer like we've been assuming. But then what about the fifth child, as there's only 4 here? Well, as we pointed out last time, the fifth child is there too, appearing at the very end of the minigame and taking the role of Golden Freddy. But remember, Golden Freddy is a decommissioned spring-lock suit at this point, deemed too unsafe to be functional. The reason he's slumped over and can't move like the rest is that his endoskeleton has been taken out. He's in suit mode, not free roaming mode. He physically doesn't have the mechanisms in place to stand up and move. Possessed or no, a dead child's spirit just can't give a boneless suit the ability to stand. This also explains the lone naked endoskeleton
shit.
that appears occasionally in both Five Nights 2 and Five Nights 1. An endoskeleton that once belonged to Golden Freddy. Whew. I know I made you wait for this one, so I knew I had to make it count. Heck, if there ain't a lot to cover. Still with me? Good, because we're ready for our next location.
I wonder how long it took him to get into all this. I wonder how much time, not the video like editing itself alone, the time for research-wise. Because, holy shit. There's so much to unpack here.
But also, can you imagine being the child that was killed and then put into the suit that can't move?
I wonder if they're going to bring that in the movie. It makes me curious with all this, what they're bringing in the movie and what they're not. Like, the Springtrap thing, at the end of the trailer, I don't know if you saw the recent trailer, but at the end of the trailer, they showed him in it. So I wonder how that plays into everything now.
See, since the puppet hid the bodies, no one knows they're in the suits until they start oozing and smelling, which, as we see in the papers, eventually gets the place shut down for health violations. The company tries to recover from, quote, the tragedy that took place there many years ago, but can't, and eventually is forced to shut its doors for good. This leads to the trailer for Five Nights at Freddy's 2. Finally, we're actually going to talk about a game in the series. Seriously, can you believe we've been going this whole time on locations that aren't even settings for the three main games?
I didn't realize that,
That is why this lore is so challenging, but also so interesting. Anyway, forgotten, dismantled, deactivated. These are the words you see at the beginning of the trailer. Back when the debate about whether this game was a sequel or a prequel to the first game, these words made it seem like a follow-up, that everything had been shut down since the first game, but it wasn't. These words are a reference to the business being closed down after that first missing children's incident. That's why posters everywhere in Five Nights 2 are all about the brand new Fazbear Pizza. It's the grand reopening after years of being out of business. That's also why the new toy animatronics have built-in facial recognition software to a criminal database. They need to be careful to prevent another incident. But, as we know, it doesn't work.
That doesn't work.
As we see in the Save Them minigame, 5 more children get killed in this new location. We know it's the new location because the minigame map's layout perfectly matches this new Fazbear business. We also know it couldn't have happened earlier in the timeline. Matches this new Fazbear business.
Oh, that's interesting.
I
didn't realize that, and I didn't even see these back rooms. I only went to the front room. So that... Okay, that's interesting.
We also know it couldn't have happened earlier in the timeline as both the old animatronics and new toy robots are presented in the game. But this time, the puppet's solution isn't saving the kids, it's stopping the killer. He enlists the help of Freddy to try and SAVETHEM, leading the bear to the killer's location. Except Purple Guy came prepared, equipped with not a phone, but rather something to help him tamper with the animatronics. He knows that something fishy is going on with these robots, because he's been watching, studying. The puppet wants Freddy to save them, to which the killer's answer is only this: you can't. So how did the Purple Guy manage it when he had been caught years before? What about the bite of 87? How do FNAF 1 and 3 fit in? And most importantly of all, who is the Purple Guy? All that next week.
All right.
Don't worry.
We'll have to go into the next one. But part 1, what'd you think of that?
I think it was interesting. Stuff that I haven't really thought about.
There's so much deep shit in this game that, like, I played the last 3 games, but I didn't really think about a lot of those things when I was playing it because I was too busy being scared out of my mind and not trying to shit myself. Now I'm thinking about a retrospective, like, oh, those minigames are starting to kind of make sense now. With everything that goes on, why certain things pop out then with jump scares and whatnot, it's starting to make a lot more sense. Everything's starting to come to me a little bit more, especially Golden Freddy and whatnot.
Today we're covering the major questions from the franchise, the final bits of the timeline, the ending of the game, and most importantly of all, the identity of the Purple Guy.
Oh yeah, so now we're actually getting into the game. Because I realized we didn't really even talk about this third game at all.
When we left things off, there had been another round of murder done in Fazbear Pizza. Purple Guy had once again used a Golden Bonnie suit to lure in another set of 5 kids and kill them, as depicted in the Save Them minigame from FNAF 2.
Yeah, I didn't even notice this room.
Investigation a few days later, but the one thing that practically everyone overlooks in this location is that it gets reopened. In FNAF 2, the Night 1 phone call welcomes you to your new summer job at Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
Hello and welcome to your new summer job at the new and improved Freddy Fazbear's Pizza.
The paycheck at the end of the week reads November. There is not a single place in the world where November is a summer month.
And it was for 30 hours.
Yeah, I know. That's why I said it's a sad paycheck.
One, meaning that these tapes, all these tapes, are pre-recorded. And honestly, that shouldn't be a surprise. Phone Guy's calls are recordings in every game. In FNAF 1, before Phone Guy dies, he says he's glad he recorded these messages when he did.
I'm kind of glad that I recorded my messages for you.
And then in FNAF 3, they find the old training tapes the Phone Guy made.
First of all, we found some vintage audio training cassettes. Dude, these are like prehistoric. I think they were like training tapes.
In short, all of Phone Guy's messages are unstuck in time, not recorded anytime near your tenure as security guard. That includes the ones in FNAF 2 talking about children going missing. The pizzeria isn't being shut down for an investigation of some missing children the week you happen to be working there. You're listening to old tapes meant for the night security guard from months ago. Need more proof? Night 6's call references a birthday party happening as the last event before the building closes. But what decorations do we see put up throughout the building for the entirety of the week you're working there? Happy birthday banners. Confusing? You betcha. Game changing? Absolutely. This means that both Jeremy and Fritz, the characters you play as throughout FNAF 2, aren't the killer purple guy at all. They were both working in November after the yellow suit investigation and the killer getting charged. Which brings us
Yeah, because at the time, I forgot there was a theory that it was Purple Guy who was the person running the back there, but I just knew that wasn't true. But at the time, it was like a good theory, but when after every years that have happened, I knew that wasn't true.
Another key point in the timeline, the bite of 87. Ever since we heard about this mysterious frontal lobe nibble on that first fateful night at Freddy's, we've wanted to know more about this bizarre attack, the one that ends up resulting in animatronics no longer being allowed to walk around during the day. But now, 3 games in, we do know more. We know it took place in the location of FNAF 2 based on the 1987 date on Jeremy's paycheck. And furthermore, the newspaper clipping that ends FNAF 2 gives us a clue that it's the bite which closes this version of the restaurant, not some serial killing. Quote, after being open a few short weeks, the restaurant is closing its doors, the article says, with the new animatronics being scrapped for possible malfunction. That's game designer Scott Cawthon telling us that one of the new toy animatronics bit someone during the day. Why else would the new robots be scrapped while the old ones get kept for possible reorganization? Well, outside of an obvious need to retcon why these new robots didn't appear in Five Nights 1. It's because the company considered them safer, relatively speaking. So, then who's the biter? Well, it's none other than the pile of scraps and parts, Mangle. The most obvious clue is the animatronic's unhinged jaw. The frontal lobe is the biggest part of the human brain.
That's not true either. For which one did it? Mostly because I know I know these are old videos, so at the time the 4th game had come out, but the 4th game explains who actually did it. So it's funny watching this back. It's like it's a good theory. Just now that you're watching it back, it's like okay, we know that part was wrong, but it was a good theory for the time.
Shape of the other toy robots' mouths just wouldn't be able to handle the size of the human head, especially when you compare it to the Mangle's narrow snout and wide open mouth. There's also Mangle's sharper teeth and potential angle of attack. As shown by its jump scare, Mangle goes for the top of the head. And who got bit? Well, there isn't enough evidence to say definitively, but your most likely candidate would be fan favorite Jeremy Fitzgerald. Jeremy passes the test, and on his paycheck at the end of the week, he's welcomed into the family, presumably getting moved to day shift. Fritz gets hired to replace him on day 7, but then promptly gets fired for tampering with the animatronics. That means he's not likely the one to get bit, and instead the person who follows him on day shift is, leaving Jeremy as the most likely frontal lobeless candidate. But regardless of whether it's Jeremy or some other customer we've never met, someone gets bit, the restaurant closes for good, and as the newspaper clippings show, the old animatronics go into storage awaiting a smaller location with a lower budget. Fast forward to the 90s and FNAF 1. We know it's the 90s based on the hourly rate of the paycheck received by Mike Schmidt, security guard extraordinaire from the first game, something we proved in our first Five Nights video. And now we can breathe a sigh of relief because
that's crazy. That minimum wage,
minimum
wage jump over the years, that's crazy to what it is now.
go. And now we can breathe a sigh of relief, because this was the beautiful time long, long ago, last August, when the games weren't so complicated, when the biggest mysteries were a game-crashing gold bear and the words, "It's me." No death minigames, no puppets, no need to shoehorn in extra overcomplicated storylines. That all would come later when the first game became a smash hit and got itself some sequels.
Yep.
And boy, did those sequels make things complicated, as both featured 8-bit minigames revealing more details about this location from the original game. First things first, we know that the purple guy kills 5 children here. We see it in the Foxy Go 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 minigame from FNAF 2.
Because I imagine that, like, what's it called? That the frontal lobe thing about Mangle was, like, originally supposed to be that, because at the time, the third game was supposed to be the last one, but people didn't like it, so he's like, fuck it, and then made a 4th one, and then it just continued on from there. So it makes me think maybe that was the original plan.
Foxy runs past a grinning purple guy to see 5 dead bodies, when Foxy's stage, Pirate Cove, is located to the west of a dining area. See how he performs for the children by running to the right? That matches the map layout of the FNAF 1 pizzeria. We also know from the FNAF 3 minigames that this is where the purple guy dies inside a golden Springlock Bonnie suit in a safe room near the back. One built so that it would never show up on camera, conveniently explaining why it never appeared in the first game.
Yeah.
But hold on, weren't those safe rooms sealed up a long time ago? I mean, we touched on this last episode, but the old recordings of Phone Guy we listened to throughout FNAF 3 say that these rooms are being closed off, discontinued, and will never be mentioned again. Why would a location 20 years later possess a safe room unless it was the same building as the first Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location? That's why it's in such disrepair when we see it in the FNAF 3 minigames, boarded up with rats on the floor. It's been closed down for years, which also means the dead kids from the Foxy Go 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 minigame aren't another set of new victims, cause seriously, at this point, the killer would have made his way through like a short bus full of hungry children. No, those kids are the first 5 dead kids, the ones who would eventually possess Old Bonnie, Chica, Freddy Foxy, and Golden Freddy. I mean, look, if the animatronics were possessed at this point, don't you think Foxy would be attacking Purple Guy rather than just running past him to perform for some dead kids? This also explains the random cutscene from FNAF 2 where the puppet's looking into Freddy's eyes. You can tell by the tables in the background and the design of both Bonnie and Chica that this is the FNAF 1 location with the old animatronics on stage. But it's not a flash forward to the game's next location, but rather a flash back to the moment the puppet brought these characters, these children, to life.
Oh, shit.
Okay, but that's just tying together some loose ends in the story. We're interested in how this whole thing ends, and those FNAF 3 minigames give us the conclusion we're looking for. These flashback minigames show Purple Guy dismantling the animatronics from the security of the safe room one by one. But in doing so, he's unwittingly releasing the spirits of his former victims. Freddy, Bonnie, Chica, Foxy, Golden Freddy. When their powers combine, they are
God damn
able to
it.
scare Purple Guy into the Golden Bonnie Springlock suit, which fails, crushes him pretty much to the point of death, though notice we never actually see him die, and the spirits fade away. Golden Bonnie, with Purple Guy inside, now known as Springtrap, rots away in the safe room for years until he's finally uncovered by the founders of Fazbear's Fright from the third game.
Could make sense with everything, like, because his face is, like, all fucked up in the images and stuff like that. I'd have to find it.
The discovery of Springtrap, this haunted house attraction inspired by the years of mystery and murder of the pizzeria chain, finally has their first real animatronic, who then haunts the player for 5 nights and a nightmare night until the place burns down due to faulty wiring. The end. Take a bow. It's finally over. Well, kinda. We're still left with one final, seemingly impossible question to answer.
Okay.
Who is the Purple Guy? After spending, I kid you not,
I think we do figure it
days plotting out all the details of this game franchise on whiteboards, talking it over with anyone who would stand to listen to me ramble on and on about fictional haunted robots, and just looking at it from every possible angle, all logic points to it being...
Oh wait, is there another one? Damn, I didn't realize he made it into 3 different parts. God, these are good videos.
So, yeah, due to copyright being over 15 minutes.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so we got a copyright strike. At the time, YouTube had a thing, if you ever got a strike or anything like that, they'd only make you do 15-minute videos. You couldn't do anything more. They deaded that back in like 2017, 2016. They deaded that because it was a thing for a while. But then it stopped. So that makes sense. I was wondering why he broke up into so many parts.
All logic points to it being the phone guy. And no, not because I made a theory about it and refused to let it die. Honestly, I couldn't care less if that last video was wrong. At this point, I just care about the truth, and phone guy makes the most logical sense. I know your complaints, and I promise you, if you stick with me, you'll be convinced. First, there's the circumstantial evidence I presented during my FNAF 2 theory. Phone Guy's admitted love of Foxy being reflected by the smiling purple guy sprite during the Foxy Go 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 minigame. His distrust of the puppet, a creature haunted by his first victim that we see time and time again trying to bring a stop to his killing spree. His admitted role as a security guard, and even the weird phone-like object in his hand from the Save Them minigame. But there's even more evidence when we consider Five Nights 3. Consider this. He's the only person in the game who knows about the safe rooms. As we've mentioned before, all the safe rooms were sealed up back in the Springlock suit days, back in the first Freddy Fazbear's Pizza location, meaning every other employee coming afterward would have never even heard of these things. Phone Guy is the only character we meet who would have any knowledge of these rooms, and more importantly, of how they operate, how they're invisible to the cameras, and more importantly, to the animatronics. And that's just the beginning. He's also the only person who knows how to use the Springlock suits. Again, once they were decommissioned, the suits were hidden away. Regardless of whether you believe that the killer used a golden Bonnie suit the whole time, or you think he used a golden Freddy suit, either way, we know for a fact the killer was using one of the yellow Springlocked suits, and Phone Guy is the only character we know who had knowledge of A, where they were hidden, and B, how they were operated safely. Now, I know a lot of people have said that it couldn't have been Phone Guy because he knew better. He knew that they were dangerous and could kill him, so if he was indeed the purple guy, he wouldn't just hop into a Springtrap suit like we see depicted at the ending of FNAF 3. But there's one key detail that everyone has been overlooking, and that Scott carefully included in this game. Listen. Hear it? There's rain. There are puddles on the ground. It's dripping from the ceiling. The killer had been using these Springlock suits safely for years, but in his panic to escape the ghosts, he failed to notice the wetness of the building around him. The killer had never encountered this problem before because the building had always been in a decent state of repair, but now it's a wreck, torn apart by age. Rain is able to seep in, something he didn't realize when he was in such a hurry to run away from the ghosts. And if moist breath can loosen the locks, you can bet some rain would make those suckers ready to snap shut. And they do, killing our killer. I mean, all of that makes a pretty compelling argument, almost an open and shut case, if there wasn't one final major criticism to the Phone Guy theory since the release of FNAF 3. And it's a good one. The fact that Phone Guy...
Holy shit, hold on. Hold on, there's a lot to take in. I'm trying to take a lot in here. I mean, I guess I could see how it could be him, but I don't know. I actually don't know that one. I actually don't know who the Phone Guy is. It could be, if they're pre-recorded and whatnot, there is a possible chance it could be, but I really don't know.
He seems to die during his night fork.
Why would he, like, I guess, help out whoever comes after him?
And especially since they came to kill him at the end of the first game.
A phone call from the first game.
Hey, listen, I may not be around to send you a message tomorrow.
Yeah.
It's been a bad night here for me. I'm kind of glad that I recorded my messages for you when I did.
If Phone Guy was the killer, why would the robots still be active after his death and the ghosts disappear? It just wouldn't make sense unless you stop to consider the rest of FNAF 3's endings. The big twist in FNAF 3 is the inclusion of a good and bad ending. By completing the game normally, you get the bad ending, in which we see Purple Guy die in a flashback minigame, and the whole thing ends with 5 masks representing the 5 main animatronics with lights on behind their eyes. The good ending, meanwhile, requires using some not-so-subtly hidden clues to unlock minigames, and basically ignoring those games.
He really doesn't like that foam pad one.
Kids cake to make them happy, obviously referring to the victims of Purple Guy. Beat the game this time, and the ending is largely the same, but with one fewer animatronic mask and no lights on. The obvious difference here is that in the good ending, the souls of the dead children have been put at peace.
Yeah.
When they
Why is there only
disappear,
four?
they disappear for good. They don't go back to their animatronic bodies. But the bad ending? The lights on behind the eyes of all 5 masks mean that these guys are still active.
Yeah.
Angry, restless spirits still haunting the robots to this day. Because here's the thing, the good ending doesn't exist until you, as the player of the 3rd installment, give cake to those kids during FNAF 3's hidden minigames. What you play in FNAF 1, though, is the aftermath of the bad ending, when the animatronic
Okay, I'm gonna hear him out. Because I was thinking about that, and I'm like, I guess that is true. I guess that there's what is technically the canon ending, technically.
but are still out for vengeance. Yeah, you made it through those first 5 nights at Freddy's. You overheard the death of the purple guy recorded live on the phone, but it wasn't enough. You got the bad ending. Even with the killer crippled in the back room in a spring-lock suit, the lights are still on in these animatronics. They're still roaming the halls, attacking anyone wearing that much-hated security guard outfit. People like Mike Schmidt, an innocent guy just trying to do his job at a failing pizza restaurant. And as the final nail in the coffin, what Phone Guy says in his Night 4 recording perfectly foreshadows what we see in the games.
Maybe sometime you could check inside those suits in the back room. I'm gonna try to hold out.
Oh, wait.
Someone checks. Maybe it won't be so bad. Yeah, I always wondered what was in all those empty heads back there.
Think about what Purple Guy does. He hides in a back room, the safe room, hides in a suit, and despite getting sprung trapped, actually does hold out until someone checks. Holds out long enough for the phone dude to find the hidden safe room, recover the animatronic, and set him free in Fazbear Fright. Exactly what the phone guy said he'd do in his final moments. And as Springtrap, he comes back in FNAF 3. Comes back like he always does. And with no real animatronics present at Fazbear's Fright, remember Springtrap is the only real one they've found, with all the rest scattered, probably located in dumps, which is why their bodies and faces are...
Okay, I guess that theory is starting to make a little bit more sense to me. Because I was a little confused there if they died, but I mean, I guess that all kind of adds up in a certain way. I don't know if that's the true canon. I don't know that. I don't know if this is like what's true and whatnot. So him doing whatever he was doing in the back when the spirits were trying to get after him, that's what happened. Okay. That, and it makes sense why the phone was going to say, okay, that's all starting to make a little bit more sense. It's all starting to make a little bit more sense of it being pre-recorded, and they said they were going to bring him back. I forgot that he said that you go into the back to go check him when you get the chance. I forgot all about that part. Okay, that's starting to click to me more, because I didn't remember that part. I remember him dying, but I didn't remember, I was like, but wouldn't it, okay. Yeah, okay, this is all starting to get to my...
They're decaying. All that the spirits can do is appear as phantoms, hallucinations. Well, all except one. The puppet, who we see in his physical form roaming the hallways of Fazbear Fright. So real, in fact, that we see his reflection, visible in the pools of water under his feet, meaning he is there and unburnt. There's only one way to truly end this. End the murderous purple guy, burning the place to the ground. The puppet gave robots life, gave spirits peace, and finally gave the murderer, the phone guy, his long-deserved death, or at least tried to. And that is the end of the Five Nights at Freddy's
he got
story.
out.
No hat, no movie, no 4th installment.
What? Oh, no! No!
No! Oh my gosh, what happened? What's wrong?
Look!
Yeah,
no.
there's going to be a 4th one.
But hey, that's
That's so funny to me. That's the crazy part, because everyone was not happy with how the jump scare was. Everyone thought it wasn't scary enough. So he's like, Scott Cawthon's basically like, fuck it. I'm going to make the game even 10 times scarier. and made it probably the scariest game I've ever played out of this whole franchise. What's your thoughts?
Probably wouldn't have figured out.
Yeah, that's why I don't know how far and deep they're gonna go into this movie with any of these stories and whatnot. I guess it makes sense. Purple guy being the phone guy. I guess it would make sense. I guess that kind of all adds up. I know the Bite of 87 is wrong technically, but because of what happens in the next game. But I think he got it spot on. I don't know what because look how many videos there are after this. So I don't know what he got right and what he got wrong. But I would not have put together that phone guy and the purple guy. I guess that makes sense. I guess I didn't realize it would have all been pre-recorded messages because it wouldn't have made sense with that 6th night about him talking. Maybe it would have been the Bite of 87, but it still had the birthday party later on, so I don't know how that bite would have worked then. Because of the birthday party, that's when it happens. This whole thing hurts my head to try and rationalize.
I'm gonna need some Tylenol.
Like I said, I thought 3rd was actually a pretty decent game. I didn't think it was as bad as people let it on to be and whatnot. I get the jump scares are kind of redundant and whatnot, but story-wise, I think it worked out really well. And it was a different change of pace. I can get it. I can get why somebody could see it redundant, but I don't think it's horrible. I don't think it's a horrible game by any means. But yeah, if you guys love the video, like, comment, subscribe. Game Theory channel's in the link in the description. Go check them out. Peace.
Ain't no simpin', just pimp chimpin'. Ain't no simpin', just pimp chimpin'. Ain't no simpin', just pimp chimpin'. Ain't no simpin', I'm just pimp chimpin'. Ain't no simpin', just pimp chimpin'. Ain't no simpin', just pimp chimpin'. Ain't no simpin', just pimp chimpin'. Ain't no simpin'.